we're going to get back into Egypt for a little bit and go into the tuning forks. So the Egyptian Ankh at least dates back to when the Sphinx was being used, which is at least 9,000 BC, if we're looking at the understanding that the Egyptians were at their heyday and as advanced as they were during this last precession of the equinox of 26,000 years. So the Ankh dates back to then. And it was actually used as a sound tool and a sound healing device. And we know that the Ankh was at the cornerstone of Egyptian religion, if you can call it that. It was their religious symbol, just like the cross is the symbol for the Christians. And here's a video on the Ankh by Spirit Science. And these individuals are awesome people that create videos on all things esoteric. And they did this video, which kind of connects the true world history component to what the Ankh is. So we're going to show you this video right now and then go over it.
Previously on Spirit Science, we fell, we hit rock bottom, and once again began our revolution from square one, only this time as a male species. It was a new beginning. Eventually, humankind had re-evolved to a state where they could understand new information, and the Nakals gave us a boost into civilization. Egypt and Sumer were born. Everything in ancient Egypt was synthetic. They had this entire civilization based around achieving heightened states of consciousness, but they had to do it through tools. Now, we're not going to look at each of these tools individually, but let me give you a brief overview here. This tool was used for transferring vibrations into the body. Along with that were the hook and flail. This little device was a kind of generator to increase vibrations, though there's not too much information available on it. This thing, however, was their most important tool, the Ankh. They saw the Ankh as the secret to eternal life, and they used it not as a physical tool, but as an energetic one. They would use this form and Ankh their sexual energy. Now, this could be a huge topic on its own, like how energy travels up and down the body through a vertical tube between 5 energy channels that counter-rotate as they extend through the body. But basically, sexual energy is an incredibly powerful energy. We definitely abuse it today, but what the Egyptians knew was that when you had an orgasm, a very large amount of energy bursts from your root chakra all the way up your spine to the top of your head, and then it gets released. What the Egyptians would do was when the spiral of energy hit their heart chakra, they would Ankh the energy out of the back of their body and over their head and back into their body, where they would keep the energy and retain a massive energy boost. In other words, if you take a tuning fork and hit it, it will reverberate for a certain amount of time. Then, if you attach an Ankh on top of it and hit it again, it will reverberate at least 3 times longer. The Egyptians were doing this with their bodies. Moving on, when Atlantis was first formed, the Nakals set up something called a mystery school. This is a special type of school where you learn about consciousness, and you learn different aspects of expanding your own consciousness, and eventually...
So there we go. So it seems that the Ankh was being utilized for more than just a religious symbol, that the Ankh was actually a tuning fork, the first ever tuning fork that was making and utilizing the human body as a tuning fork, helping amplify our own energy. And this is just one piece of information from Spirit Science, and they get the information from Drumbelow Melchizedek. And there's a lot of other individuals that have said the same thing. And through my own spiritual practice and meditation, without even knowing about this information, I came across the awareness that the Ankh was also a tuning fork, and I just stumbled onto the fact that other people believe it too. And if you look right here, you can see the equation of what the Ankh means. So in Ankh, the letter N in Egyptian means wave. N is wave. And the sound K equals matter. So the word in itself means sound, it means wave and matter. And the letter A is actually silent. The word Ankh isn't the way you say it. It's unk. So you leave the letter A out, and the A represents the hidden world, the hidden dimension that exists. So we start with the hidden dimension with the wave, and then all of a sudden you have the Ka, which is the matter. The hidden world creates the wave, which creates the matter. And that's what the Ankh meant. So let's break it down a little more. We have A, which represents Amen or Amenet, which means what is hidden. And the deity for the A is Amen-Ra. A is hidden and not pronounced. Then we have N, which is Nun or Nunet, which equals the wave, which is the watery abyss. So when I said Amen-Ra, each of these corresponding sounds and each of these letters have a corresponding Egyptian god to it. So for A, we have Amen-Ra. In N, we have the god of the watery abyss, which is this space, the universe. And with K, we have Kek or Kekhet, which equals darkness, which is the god of darkness. And then we have H, which is Het or Hehet, which is the ruler of infinity. So the Ankh is the most ancient symbol of a code of sounds and primordial deities. And here's a graphic I found, a little equation on the Ankh. And basically this expression represents a wave, which is N from the Ankh, traveling at the infinite speed time, which is the H, separating darkness and light, which creates a hidden Amen, which makes an evolutionary chain of events. This is featured as the Neb Keper Ra inside of the Ankh loop. So the Ankh tuning fork was lost for thousands of years, the information on it. Pythagoras invented the monochord and set the pitch to C equals 256 hertz and A equals 432 hertz. He resurrected the information on this, and the information that he pulled out and the frequency that he created are what we use now for chakra healing tuning forks. Pythagoras resurrected the ability to create tools that resonate sound frequencies for healing. Chakra tuning forks are currently set to that scale. So what is a tuning fork? All right, now we're going to get into some fun stuff. So here is a tuning fork, everyone. So what is it? It's an acoustic resonator in the form of a two-pronged fork with the prongs formed like a U-shape bar of metal. It emits a pure musical tone after waiting a moment to allow some high overtones to die out. The main reason for using the fork shape is that, unlike many other types of resonators, it produces a very pure tone with the most vibrational energy at the fundamental frequency and little at the overtones. So what that means is that the tone from this, as soon as the overtones die out, which is like within seconds, you have a pure frequency tone. This is D 288 hertz. See if you can see that. D is the sacral chakra. 288 hertz is the corresponding frequency of that. So this right here, as soon as the overtones die out, creates a pure 288 hertz for you for your chakra. Whereas other instruments such as the Tibetan bowl, the meditation bowls in particular, actually have many overtones, and you can hear it vibrate at all different levels, and it's an oscillating sound. So that is good for something different, and this is good if you want a pure tone. So I'm going to play this for you, and I did a test earlier. The sound came out pretty well, so let's see. How you usually play this would be on something hard and soft, like a tennis ball or a rubber ball. Nothing, you don't want to play it on any hard surface like a desk because it could mess up the tuning. And you don't want to play it on anything too soft because it won't make any sound. I just use my elbow for now because I've just done it for so many years that I know where to hit it. So I use my elbow when I don't have a tennis ball. Here we go. This is D for the sacral chakra at 288 hertz. Please comment in the chat room. Please comment in the chat room if you can hear it, and then I'll continue with it. So you hear that, that's D, and I'll show you another one. So let's go with 512 hertz, C sharp. This is also known as the high heart. And you can tell that it's a much higher tone. Trisha is asking where we get the higher tuning forks. We can talk about that later, and I can send you some links to actually where you can get these forks and learn about the science behind it all. And nothing. Let me also say this: that 432 hertz isn't the exact frequency. It's plus or minus a couple of hertz. That it actually fluctuates. It's not specifically 432 hertz, and the actual specific frequency is 432 point something. So a lot of forks you might see might not have the pure tone on it and might actually have point something something. Okay, so that was the tuning fork. And now we're going to go into my favorite instrument. Actually, tuning fork is one of my favorite, but I love to talk about the didgeridoo. So the didgeridoo, it originates from Arnhem Land in Northern Territory, Australia. It may be the world's oldest currently existing musical instrument, which is over 40,000 years old. And traditionally, didgeridoos are made from eucalyptus tree trunks and limbs hollowed out. Traditionally, the termite hollowed out didgeridoo was cut to an average length of 130 to 160 centimeters. So it's important to note that the original didgeridoos were not created by man. That what would happen was that the son of the tribe, when he was getting to a certain age and it was time for his rite of passage, they would send him out into the wilderness. And there are many different tribes, and many different tribes have different rituals, but this is just one of them that was commonly done, that the son was actually given a psychedelic plant medicine where the son would have to go out into the wilderness, that's called the outback in Australia, and would have to find a perfectly hollowed out eucalyptus trunk. And that would be his didgeridoo, and then he would come back to the community. He was not allowed to come back to the community until he found his perfect didgeridoo. It didn't take too long. They were all over the place. So the original didgeridoos were actually perfectly hollowed out by termites, thousands of them. The termites just happened to do that and just had some DNA programming in them where they kept hollowing them out, and then the Aborigines would go into the wilderness, pick out the hollowed out tube, come back to their tribe, just kind of get rid of all the shavings that are left over, and they would have their didgeridoo. They'd make their mouthpiece and they're good to go. So the didgeridoos were all created the same exact way. So, and here's a picture of a naturally hollowed out eucalyptus tube by termites. So this is what they would find in the wilderness. They would find it looking like this, and I love this picture here to the left because it's like so beautifully done, like the image sort of with the sun at the end of it. And that's the inside of it. And here on the right-hand side is a bunch of different eucalyptus tubes that are destined to become didgeridoos. So today, didgeridoos are made from a large variety of materials. The didgeridoo I have is made out of bamboo. This one's made out of bamboo, got it at Venice Beach, my first ever didgeridoo. And then we have PVC, we have crystal didgeridoos. Didgeridoos that are coming out now made out of crystal. So each of them have different effects with the, depending on what material it's made from. The crystal ones, I'm sure, are extremely powerful. However, the original didgeridoos that were made before modern times started creating all types of variations of them, before man started creating them, the original didgeridoos all had the frequency of C sharp. So the termites weren't just hollowing out eucalyptus tubes, but the thousands and thousands and thousands of eucalyptus tubes that were hollowed out by termites over the thousands of years of use all created tubes that when you blew into them came out with the exact same frequency of C sharp. So this didgeridoo was traditionally used as an accompaniment along with chants, singers, dances, and often in ceremonies. In some tribes, well, actually a lot of the tribes, most of them, men only played the didgeridoo, but in other tribes, children and women also played them. The word didgeridoo is a Western word given to the instrument over around 100 years ago. And I actually used to have a chart in this presentation where I show like 60 different names for it, but you probably won't get a chance to read it. So if you're really interested in what it's originally called and other names, because every single tribe had their own name for the didgeridoo. This is not even an Aborigine name. So the didgeridoo was the sound that the Western man made when they came over there and they saw the instrument. So before we move on to the solfege, the tone C sharp, there is this concept called earthing. There's a book out called Earthing, and this book talks about the science behind the fact that when you take your shoes and socks off and you connect to earth, maybe in some mud or some grass, or even if it's a little wet, it really helps out because the electrical current is increased that way. all of a sudden, within 30 minutes, your entire body starts shifting from acidic environment to an alkaline environment, and all of your blood cells get oxygenated. So what happens is that the frequency of the earth has an alkalizing effect on the human body. So the frequency of the Schumann resonance, which is the frequency of the earth, is the same frequency as C sharp. And the Aborigines were playing these instruments that all had the Schumann resonance coming out of it. So the didgeridoos, the sound from the didgeridoo is the same exact sound and the frequency that the earth is emanating. So what they were doing was creating epic bubbles of alkalinity when no one was getting sick. And a lot of different traditions all over the world that knew about frequency and sound, they knew about the ones that would make it that they won't be sick. Alkaline state, in an alkaline state, you cannot get sick. In an acidic state, your body gets disease and cancerous. In an alkaline state, that reverses. That's mainstream science now. So they were creating instruments that were emanating frequencies that after 30 minutes of feeling and hearing that frequency, you're alkaline, they were never getting sick. So I don't know if you've noticed, but in the last 100 years, humanity has been getting sicker and sicker, it seems, physically. Diseases that we never even knew existed are coming out. All types of illnesses are coming out. It seems like it's an exponential increase of different diseases that we're seeing out on TV and different commercials trying to cure all types of things, and people getting sick from things that we never even knew existed. And it just keeps going on and on and on. So what happened was, for the last over 100 years, since the Industrial Revolution, humanity has been slowly disconnecting from the natural frequency of the planet that is always keeping us healed and aligned, the Schumann resonance. When you are a primitive culture and you're connected to the earth all the time, you're always connected to a state of alkalinity, and you don't really get sick on the level of sickness that we see it now. So what have we created since the Industrial Revolution? We've created buildings, we've created multiple story buildings, we've created carpets, created concrete, we've created socks, we've created shoes, we've created cars, we've created so many ways to disconnect us from the natural frequency of the earth. No wonder why everybody's getting sick. It's as simple as, if this awareness came out to the masses, and what I just told you right now can be taken as a reality, and people are like, oh, wait a second, so really if we spend 30 minutes maybe a day or maybe 3 times a week on connecting to earth and connecting to Schumann resonance, or even using a machine that emanates the C-sharp frequency and putting it into your body, because we have some advanced technology now, we can cure most of the sicknesses on the planet. So the ancients knew about this wisdom, and with this information and research in the future, it's going to change the world. When we start spending some time, and spiritual healing and sound healing no longer is woo-woo and new age, but we realize that it's actually a science behind it all, and the mainstream and the linear-minded people can start accepting it, then we can put some time and effort into seeing what effects and applications these frequencies have. So I'm just going to play the didgeridoo for you really quick before we move on to the next thing. Let's get you a good visual component of the didgeridoo. Front and center for you. So that is the didgeridoo. And my didgeridoo, we have about 5 of them, but this one is actually not C sharp, because this is a man-made didgeridoo that the individual who made it chose what frequency they wanted to put it at. So this note is actually note D. So D is for your sacral chakra. And it's really cool to note that now that we live in the modern age, we can actually manipulate all of these devices to actually give us the same kind of feel, but target different parts of the body. So moving on to the Solfege scale. Let's check chat really quick. Okay, so the Solfeggio scale. A lot of people don't know the word solfege, but they do know the scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. And it's used in music theory and musical schools and classes all over the world in order for individuals to be able to work on their vocal cords and singing and harmonize. So where did the Solfege scale actually originate from? So the Solfege scale, the history of the Solfege scale actually dates back all the way to the medieval hymn that a pope gave to John the Baptist. So an individual, a monk, actually gave this hymn to John the Baptist. And the hymn has this peculiarity that the first 6 lines of the music respectively on the first 6 successive notes of the scale. So this hymn was given to John the Baptist in order for him to be able to connect to the divine. And the individual that gave it to him said that if you utilize this, you'll be able to connect to different levels of consciousness. So the first syllable, the hymn is actually in Latin. So I'm going to show it to you on the next page. I don't know how to say it, so you can just read it yourself. But basically on every single line, the first 2 letters are each of the notes in the Solfege scale. And here it is. So this is the hymn to John the Baptist. And you can see originally do wasn't the beginning of the Solfege scale. It was actually ut. You can see the letters that have been highlighted and bolded here. So we have ut, we have the re, which is resonar, we have mi for the mira, we have fa for the famuli. So the way this will be said is it would go up and up in octaves. He would start at a lower pitch, and then by the time he finishes, he's a very high pitched tone. And this hymn translates to this: in order that the slaves might resonate, resound the miracles of your creations with loosened, expanded vocal cords, wash the guilt from our polluted lips, St. John. So throw out the slaves part and the guilt, the original sin. That is a human, not a distortion, but a human translation of it later down in line. But basically this hymn is saying that us as the slaves, not slaves as in the commonly accepted term for the word slave, but slaves to the sound and the frequency, the servants of it. So in order that the servants to the sound of the miracles with loosened vocal cords wash the guilt from our polluted lips. So all the distortions and the disharmonies that are going on, use this in order to wash it away from us so that we no longer need it, and we no longer have to live with it. So this hymn was even translated is talking about sound and frequency. So the above text, the hymn, seems to suggest that the solfeggial tones will open up channels of communication with the divine. So the way the frequencies were actually found for the solfeggial tones is that not only are they actually corresponding sounds, but an individual named Dr. Leonard Horowitz actually did some research and found the corresponding frequencies to each of the solfeggial tones. And what he did was he actually opened up the Book of Numbers from the Christian Bible and uncovered the exact hertz frequency of each tone. So, for example, the Book of Numbers in each verse speaking about each day of creation, when the Pythagorean reduction method is used, we arrive at the first solfeggial frequency. So you go to the Book of Numbers, and every single verse in there that talks about a day of creation has some numbers in there. And then the Pythagorean scale that he founded for this is utilized with those numbers, and then when you process the equation, all of a sudden you get a corresponding frequency for that specific solfeggial tone. And here are the frequencies that Dr. Leonard Horowitz found. Solfeggio scale, we have 396 hertz, which is liberating guilt and fear. So that's what that frequency helps with. 417 hertz, undoing situations and facilitating change. 528 hertz, which is a very popular one, love and miracles, also known for DNA repair. 639, connecting and relationships. 741, expression solutions. And 852 hertz, returning to the spiritual order. So that's the last note of the Solfeggio scale. So basically, if you can imagine this, that each of these represent the words that are being said in the Latin hymn, and we start with liberating guilt and fear, and we do we go through every single one of these processes every time we hit one of those notes, and then we end up right at the end where we return to the spiritual order. So these are actually used, these solfeggio tones were actually used in over 150 Gregorian chants in the 9th and 10th centuries. So I'm going to show you, we have a solfeggio healing tube here, and it's tuned to 528 hertz. So I'm going to show you how that looks and play it for you right now. So what you heard there was 528 hertz. So the sound that you heard was vibrating 528 times per second. And if you guys are interested in any of these instruments, I get a lot of my tuning forks and I get my solfeggio tubes from tuningforkshop.com. That's where you can get that kind of stuff. And there's actually a solfeggio healing tube set. There's a whole entire set of all the solfeggio frequencies that you can just kind of strum across and hear all the tones at the same exact time, and it sounds beautiful. So why is all of this important? Why is the sound frequency in these ancient tools important? Well, you can utilize each of these frequencies to target certain ailments in your body. So that's always great if you have any sort of issues, even if it's stress in the shoulders, right? It doesn't have to be a sickness. Like I get a lot of tension in my shoulders. So I play bowls and it actually helps alleviate it. I actually put tuning forks on my shoulders and it takes the energy out of it. Sometimes I put a whole entire bowl on top of my shoulders or my back, and I play it, and it vibrates it back into alignment. It helps alleviate stress. So after John the Baptist was given the hymn, and the solfeggio tones were given basically to Christians, and it was given to them for a reason. It was given to them so that they could bring this awareness and help change the planet so we can ascend, which is what's happening right now. However, it didn't happen the way it was supposed to happen. Ultimately, everything happened the way it should, but the way it was intended when these frequencies were originally given, it didn't happen like that. The solfeggio tones were thrown under the rug. No one messed with the frequencies. No one wanted to incorporate them into their singing. And why is that? Well, when Christianity started becoming the predominant religion in Roman Empire, 325 AD, when Constantine went ahead and proclaimed himself a Christian and made it as the #1 religion, which is really the milestone and why Christianity is so big today, they didn't want to incorporate sound and music. The reason for that is that the Romans were always using sound and music in a lustful way, in a passionate way that was basically the devil to the Christians. That the Romans were the devil because they were the oppressors, and these Romans were using music and sound in all these lavish ways. And so the Christians, when they really came out, they did the opposite of that. They became much more humble and wouldn't utilize the same instruments and the same or music at all because of their connection to the Romans. So this takes us into a last component of the presentation, true world history. Why is this important and why this connects to the true world history? So our history books have been rewritten and rewritten and rewritten by the victors. What we think we know isn't exactly what we know. And we already started discussing the fact that the timeline of human evolution is completely different, that humans have been here for hundreds of thousands of years. Some people have said millions of years, and if you believe in like time travel and other aspects of other dimensional beings coming from different dimensions, they could have visited at any time. But one thing's for sure from research that I've been looking into, and one thing that we can prove to the mainstream people, is that we've been here for hundreds of thousands of years. And there seems to be a procession going on, an evolution of consciousness that keeps happening over and over and over again, and a cycle of consciousness. And Graham Hancock has discovered a lot of archaeological findings that have shown us that there were actually civilizations that existed that were far more advanced than we could ever imagine. Spacefaring civilizations, Atlantis and their connection to space, different extraterrestrial beings with ancient Egypt, such as the Hathors and the beings that they show in their pyramids. So there's a whole entire picture out there that really needs to be uncovered. For a long time, the true world history individuals within the archaeological movement were just considered alternative, that they were shunned, and you could really lose all credibility and completely be shunned out of the community of archaeologists and scientists if you were to propose something completely different than what is accepted by the mainstream. So a lot of individuals never really rocked the boat. There were a few people here and there. One of the biggest guys was Graham Hancock. He's been at it the whole entire time. But as he said in his last book that just came out, that this past year in 2016, this whole year, the alternative movement of archaeology has now overtaken the mainstream. More and more individuals are joining the alternative movement. The reason for that is that the cover-up of our true world history is becoming too much of a conspiracy to throw away anymore. It needs to come out. Even world governments, even NASA, and other individuals that have an invested interest in not telling us the truth are actually leaking out information here and there and making it look like they never knew in the first place, because it's better than them saying, hey, we knew and we're lying to you. So our true world history is on its way of being changed. And 2017, and Graham Hancock said that in 2017 he thinks that our history books will start changing, and there will be documentaries out there that start showing that there were advanced civilizations that existed before us. They were way more advanced than us, and something happened to some of them. Some of them got destroyed. There's a lot of information out there that we can learn from them and see what exactly went down so that we don't make the same mistakes again, because we are making the same mistakes again. It's not going to happen the way it happened before, that these civilizations were destroyed through cataclysmic explosions, through meteorite collisions, or great flood, like the flood of Noah, which is actual reality. That it's not going to happen again. The earth is destined to ascend. So with that, it's very important that every single person on this call and all the individuals that are going to watch this and watch all the other webinars that we are doing really understand the fact that our true world history has a lot to teach us. And once this information gets out there to the masses, then we can actually start making better decisions for ourselves and our families and the whole entire world. So when true world history, how does that connect to sound and vibration? So here we have the procession of the equinox. So the procession of the equinox is a 26,000 year cycle. So if you can imagine this, and maybe you can follow my hands, but otherwise just imagine it. In the center of our galaxy, we have a supermassive black hole. All things in our galaxy rotates around it. We're all the way at the back, almost to the back of the Milky Way galaxy. So as Earth is rotating around the center of the galaxy, right? Rotating around, takes a long, long time. As we're doing that, we're also rotating in Fibonacci spiral around the Milky Way galaxy. So we're going around in circles, but we're also going Fibonacci around. So we're like this, doing all types of vortex kind of shapes as we're moving through space. So the cycle of the Fibonacci spiral that we keep going around and around and around our entire galaxy is 26,000 years. If you look at this image here, you can see the flat plane right in the center. Pretend that's the flat plane of our Milky Way galaxy. That's the milk of the Milky Way galaxy. And then you see the trajectory at the bottom and the top. That's the evolution of our planet, where we move. We move down and we go back through the top. We go down, up the top, boom, 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 all the way. So if you look back all the way to 10,000 BC, you can see that we were at the same point that we are now back then, around 13,000 years ago. And then we had a falling, which is the negative, you can see the negative right there, into duality, all the way back up until you get to 4 BC, and then 2000 AD, which is the end of the age of Pisces, which we're currently in. So right now, we're right here. Oops. So right now, we are right here in the center where it says Christ's return. And what it means by Christ's return is it's been prophesied, like Christians prophesize Christ is returning, just so happens to be right at the end of the zodiac, right when we're shifting into another one. The Hebrew people believe that their Messiah hasn't even arrived yet, that their Messiah is coming now too. The Hindu people believe that Krishna is going to come back and take off the heads of all the evil people. And then the Bible says, this time the meek will inherit the earth, the humble will inherit the earth. So what are all these prophecies saying? They're saying that we have had a devolution of humanity for the last 13,000 years. That there were advanced civilizations before that, ancient Atlantis and ancient Lemuria that existed, that had cataclysmic explosions. They were very, very advanced spiritually. And then they fell into consciousness, and humanity fell into consciousness until we get to the point that we are now, which is the Dark Ages, right at the cusp of turning into the Bronze Age and going back into the Golden Age. So right now, we're at Christ's return, and we're moving into this. So how this connects to sound and frequency is that it's all sound and frequency. This devolution of humanity right here, and then the evolution of humanity right there, is all correlating to frequencies. We're at a lower vibratory level collectively for the last 13,000 years. We were at higher points, and then we went even lower, and then we're back up a little bit, but we were at a lower vibratory frequency. Earth is going through the center plane of our Milky Way galaxy right now. So the milk of the Milky Way galaxy is the ether, the etheric element. There are 5 elements: earth, wind, fire, water, and the 5th one is ether. Like the movie Fifth Element. The 5th element, she wasn't a real individual. She was an etheric being that became a physical manifestation. So the 5th element, ether, is where all physical elements come from. It's the most higher vibratory substance in the universe. Russian scientists came out around 5 years ago, and they said that it's very interesting to note that the etheric level in our solar system has exponentially increased in the past decade. So what does that mean scientifically? Whatever they want to make out of it. What does it mean to us? It means that the milk of the Milky Way galaxy, the high concentration of ether, the photon belt, we are diving back into it, having a high concentration of ether, having this effect on our planet that is increasing the vibration of the planet forcefully, that we don't even have a choice. We're in it. We're in it. Like, it's not like we have the choice to raise our vibration and go there. The earth is ascending no matter what. But do we want to go with it is the question. So we're getting to this level where the frequency of the planet is increasing so much through the etheric level that we're currently in, and all the planet's temperatures are increasing. There's like global warming on every single planet because of this, and we're shifting from the Piscean age into the aquatic age of the Aquarius. And then you can see that we're going to continue, and then we have evolution, and then we go back down again. So it seems that this happens every 26,000 years. So humanity has an evolution of consciousness cycle that is every 26,000 years, almost like a lesson that we keep going through. And it has been said and prophesied that this is the last cycle of the 26,000 year cycle, and we're supposed to be shifting and ascending with the whole entire planet, and no longer are we going to have cataclysmic destruction of our planet like we've had in the past countless times. We've only talked about Atlantis and Lemuria, which was in this procession of the equinox. Imagine how many civilizations and how many individuals existed on this planet in other civilizations that have been completely wiped out at their procession of their zodiac and their turn of their equinox. So we're only talking about recent history, and yet our recent history is still a myth in the mainstream. Atlantis and Lemuria isn't accepted by the mainstream, and that's our recent history. So if people knew how deep the rabbit hole really went, and that this has been going on for hundreds of thousands of years, if not more, and we've been completely going through this evolution, devolution, and these are the reasons why these civilizations got destroyed, because that information is out there, then all of a sudden we can start saying, oh, wait a second, that's what we're doing right now. We don't want to do the same thing. Why don't we shift our consciousness? Why don't we give back to the planet and stop working on creating so many external reflections that are just coming back and polluting our planet and destroying our nature as spiritual beings? So it's the procession of the equinox, and here is another a depiction of that. And you can see in this one, it actually throws in the Earth's axis. So there are ancient tribal art that we have found Egypt and Africa, all over the world, that shows the sun rising from the opposite side that it actually currently rises from. So what those civilizations were telling us was that that's where the sun came up from. And what we have now been able to prove with mainstream science is that the Earth has gone through a series of pole shifts over its existence, and currently we're undergoing a pole shift as we speak. So during this pole shift, Earth's poles have shifted from north and south, and the Earth's axis has changed from being completely erect and straight like in ancient Atlantis to shifting and being distorted a little bit. And also the Earth has started spinning in the opposite direction. So with this information of the true world history, and knowing the fact that the Earth has been going through this ascension many, many times, and when we make these decisions in order to release this to the masses, a lot of people are going to be very, very, I guess the way I explain it is running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Like, this information is mind-blowing. The truth of humanity is way more cosmic than most may realize. We've been going through this so many times. Now is the moment, and now is the time to shift the frequency of the planet so that we can usher in a new world based on unity, unconditional love, and harmony for ourselves and for one another. So it's extremely important that individuals know that we're all sound and frequency and vibration, because then we can live an empowered life. Yeah, it's all good. Nothing is set that you need to do it, because it's all good in this game of life. However, if you want to live a powerful, empowered, and loving lifestyle for yourself and for others, knowing the truth of sound frequency and our true world history is very, very important. So with that, I'm done with my presentation. So I'd like to thank everybody so much for attending today and being a part of this. I'm going to just briefly go over a couple of other courses that we got going on, and I'm going to check the chat box really quick. And if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and open up the Q&A area and write the questions. I'm going to explain to you the next few sound and vibrational awareness courses coming up, and then I'll take a look at the question area. And any feedback is great. This is my first presentation that is recorded, because I did a first presentation like this and it was not recorded. So any feedback from you guys on how I can improve and better deliver this information is greatly appreciated. This is a work in progress. These other sound courses have now been created, so I'll be doing these pretty soon too. So this was the Ancient Civilization course. The next one is going to be Sound and Vibration, the Science. And in that one, I'm going to talk about metaphysics and quantum physics connection, how they're exactly the same thing, and scientific evidence that we exist in an illusionary state, that all this is not real. We make it real, but it's not real as according to science. Sound and vibration, human physiology, and sacred geometry. So in that one, we're going to talk about psychedelics like plant medicine and their connection to sound and frequency, and also the cosmic 432 hertz and sacred geometry. So that one will go into 432, because there's a whole entire presentation you can do on what 432 represents. And then lastly, the presentation I have not created yet, but I will soon, Sound and Vibration, the Future. It's all good that we talk about the past and we spread information and awareness on it, but what's really important now is that we start getting practical with this information and start coming up with applications on how we can utilize this. So I'm doing a lot of research on who is using sound frequency tools and what kind of technology is going to be coming out pretty soon using this awareness that can change the face of the planet. And once this information comes out, it will change the face of the planet. So in that one, future applications of sound and frequency, and also frequency-based technologies that will change the world as we know it. So thank you all so much, and this right here are past events that are already finished. I'm going to go ahead and open up the Q&A area right now, stop the share, and take some questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for your comments. Okay, let's see. This is a long question, so I'll go back to that one. Am I going to be at Conscious Life Expo? Yes, we will be there. I'm not going to speak, but we will be there with our video camera, recording and interviewing people for our YouTube channel to ask them questions on all types of conscious topics and hopefully connect with speakers. But we're there every year, so we'll be at Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles. And you want to follow up with the Ankh material resources. So here's my email address in the chat box. And if you want to ask any questions about that, like you want to go into more detail and you want some, you want my resources, just go ahead and email me, and then I'll send you what I found. And maybe from there you can find some more information too. And share that with me, please. That'll be awesome. As planet Earth shifts with the vibration of the universe, it appears that her poles are shifting too. Climate change. How are we going to physically survive that? Okay, so we've had pole shifts in the past that's completely destroyed every, like, not every individual on the planet, but most of the planet and most of the inhabitants on the planet. From my understanding, and this is not just wishful thinking, we're not going through the same pole shift that we've ever gone through before. Right now, Earth is the biggest light show in the universe. You know how many extraterrestrial races have donated the DNA to us? That we are the library of all these beings. We are more diverse than Earth has ever been. No one wants us destroyed. All the beings around us have a vested interest in keeping us the way we are and seeing what evolution would be. Plus, we've done this before. This has happened before. Earth has died before. We're doing it again. It's not going to happen the same way. And you can see, like, if you look at the world right now, things look like they're falling apart, like crumbling. But that's exactly what's supposed to happen. We cannot create a new society, a new economy, if the old one currently exists. One needs to fall for the other one to be created. So right now and next few years, you might see a lot of turbulence, and a lot of people that aren't spiritually aware, like yourselves, might be actually very, very scared of it because they think the world's going to end because it looks like it on so many levels. But what's really happening is that the darkness is having its last fight, that the powers that be, the elite, no longer exist. None of this stuff is valid anymore. And it takes me to a story. Let me tell you this story really quick, that the Gnostic Christian text, right, the Gnostic Bible, in the Gnostic Bible, Jesus, I mean, let me take a step back. In the Gnostic Bible, when God created Earth and created mankind, God asked for a volunteer to go down to Earth and give people the experience of darkness. So his most trusted angel raised his hand. And who was his most trusted angel? The angel of light, Lucifer. Lucifer raised his hand and said, "I will do it, God." So how is this different from the mainstream accepted view of Christianity? The original Christian texts say that Lucifer was a volunteer coming down to Earth to volunteer to give us darkness. And darkness could be like the power structures. Darkness could be a pole shift that kills us. But the agreement was, in the Gnostic text, God said, when I come back down, you need to hand me back the keys to the kingdom of Earth. And Lucifer said, okay. So what's happening now is that God, extraterrestrials, spiritual beings, our own Christ consciousness, our own Messiah within, whatever you want to call it, is returning. And the Luciferian energy, the dark forces like that have created pole shifts, created the cataclysmy, mass extinction, and all that is on its way out, and the keys are now being handed back to quote unquote God. So as that's happening, we're not going to experience death like we've experienced it before. And Earth's pole shifts has already been happening. The earthquakes that have happened, the earthquake that happened, I think 2 years ago in Chile, literally the NASA said that the Earth's axis has shifted closer to being centered after that earthquake. That we had earthquakes and different things that are shifting our axis to a straight axis. So right now we're distorted like this, but we're not going to have a complete pole shift where everything turns the other way. The only thing that's going to happen right now, from my own understanding, is we're going to correct our axis to be completely straight. When Earth is straight like this, we have perfect, awesome weather all over the entire planet. We don't have seasons anymore. And you know how seasons and weather really affect our emotions? What if we lived in a planet where the external reflection, the manifestation of the world and the weather is a complete in harmony with how we want to be emotionally? So I feel that we're slowly shifting our axis back here, and we have a lot of powers around us and beings around us that are assisting us with this process, and it's not going to be as crazy as it has been in the past. Okay, looking forward to sound frequency for life parts. Glad for Hancock and Stephen Skinner backup. Thanks. Okay, I do a lot of sacred geometry. Thanks, Sue. Thanks for your comment. Yeah, Nico, I will share the PowerPoint with you. Please email me directly. Here's my email one more time. So if you want the PowerPoint, I will share it with you. Okay, and let's see, any more questions? Yes, Iris says, does this relate to the Divine Feminine in any way? This is all relation to the Divine Feminine. In actuality, it's related to the Divine Feminine and the Divine Masculine, because what's happened is when we fell into a wounded masculine, into a patriarchy. So the fall the fallen angels go hand in hand with the fact that the fall of Atlantis and we have fallen into a wounded masculine society. There was a time that we exist in matriarchy, and the Egyptians actually existed in matriarchy. In matriarchy, there is no control. Patriarchy is control. In matriarchy represents balance, led by the woman creative force. So this relates to the divine feminine in the fact that while we're ascending, what's really happening is the return of the divine feminine, a resurrection of the divine feminine, the information that's been lost. But as that's happening, we're actually also bringing back the divine masculine energy. The divine masculine energy has been lost too. A lot of people forget, because when I first got into consciousness and the ascension process, I was always about the return of the divine feminine. Like I was saying it all the time. And then years passed and I was like, wait a second, where's the divine masculine? That doesn't exist either. Just because we exist in a masculine-based world, people forget that the divine masculine even exists. We exist in a wounded masculine. We exist in a wounded feminine, overshadowed by the wounded masculine. So what's happening now when we go into this higher octave of existence is the divine feminine and the divine masculine are marrying each other. And that's going to be the true oneness, where we shift from the duality of this third dimension into a higher reality of the fifth dimension, or wherever we're really going. Okay. How to keep humanity safe and save this rat race? That's a tough one, but also an easy one, I guess. Like I would say living in your power and being truly authentic to yourself is the only way to save everyone else. I spent a lot of time being activist in different aspects. I would say I'm an extraterrestrial activist. Like when for the first 5 years, I was literally the guy at the bar, like saying aliens, aliens, and like telling people like from 2000, 2005, and like, you got to know that there was Sumerians and there was another planet and Nibiru and all. And then I stopped projecting my information on people and I allowed them to experience themselves the way that they need to. And I have been on a journey of self-empowerment ever since, and through that I created this platform. Through empowering myself and loving myself, everything that we're doing has now come about. So as long as you really truly find peace with yourself and love yourself, then all the things that you need to do to assist others will really come out. And a lot of people, I had a reading once where somebody told me that I don't even need, a lot of people exist on this planet not to do things, but just to be. A lot of people on this call right now are beacons of light, meaning that you are literally a vibratory device that has been put on this planet with a higher advanced soul that has a huge frequency emanating from it, and you just existing and being is the placeholder to raise the vibration of the planet. So you just need to trust in that. And I know that the world looks crazy right now, and we want to save it even more and more, but I want you to really know that you got to like trust in the fact that everything is happening just the way it should. And why maintain the status quo by pretending everything is okay when we can watch everything fall so that we can rebuild something more beautiful? Because the society and the economies that we've created are not for the betterment of humanity and only for the betterment of the few. So like, that's not fair. We need to do something that helps us all. There is no hierarchy. Just because you're born into it, just because you have money, just because you have a soul that comes from a different extraterrestrial race, there is no hierarchy. We are all one. And even the beings that have kept us enslaved are part of this oneness. They've just forgotten it. And a lot of them are higher advanced interdimensional beings that chose to come here, just like Lucifer in the Gnostic texts. All we can do when we see the chaos is thank the chaos for giving the experience that we chose to have when we first signed up here. And through that, we're not being passive. Through that, we stop doing things from being triggered and emotionally projecting on people and emotionally triggered. We start doing things from a sense of peace. What if you're an activist? What if you're an activist that completely was at peace with yourself? That's when you can truly have a lot of impact. Okay, and let's see if there's any more questions here. Okay, that's it. So if anybody has any last questions, you can go ahead and put it here. I just read Jesus, my autobiography. It's amazing. He corrects a lot of misinfo about him. That's awesome. And we actually did a webinar with Trisha McCandon on the lost years of Jesus and the lost years and secret teachings of Jesus just a week ago from today. And Trisha McCandon is actually in the room right now. And that event was mind-blowing. So if you want to check that out, you can go to our website, portaltoascension.org, and register for that one. And there's also the Urantia book, which has a lot of information on the technical side of the universe and also the lost years of Jesus. So thank you so much, everybody. And just a couple of announcements really quick, what we have going on. So we're done with our paid webinars for the rest of the year. So December, we're going to be doing a lot of free things. We have nonstop YouTube videos going on our Portal to Ascension YouTube channel, youtube.com/portal to ascension. I highly recommend subscribing to it because we got some epic information going on there. And then we have, here's my YouTube channel. Then we have 3 free webinars, actually 4 webinars from now up until January 1st. And they're going to be interviews. We're going to be doing one with Trisha McCannon on the 19th, I believe, and then another one with William Henry on the 14th, and then one with Brad Johnson on the 21st, and then myself on the 28th. And the theme of these ones that we're going to be doing is the Christ consciousness. Since that's the reason for the season, we're going to go ahead and talk about it and really talk about what the Christ consciousness represents. And even I want to talk about how it was distorted, because a lot of what happened with Christmas and the commercialization of it and what we currently feel as Christmas and the date that we chose is not exactly what the Christ consciousness was all about, or who Jesus was as an individual in general. So we're going to be talking about that this whole entire month and releasing all that on YouTube. So thank you all so much for being here. We're going to add all of your emails to the email list. If you're already on it, great. And you will receive links to all the upcoming events. And then 2017, we're taking this to the next level. We're going to start doing in-person retreats. We're also going to start doing live conferences. In October of 2017, we're going to do the first ever Portal to Ascension conference in San Diego. And this is going to be a huge meeting of the minds where we're going to bring forward information and the speakers from all over the world. And one last announcement: we're actually going to be doing a tour with Michael Tellinger starting March 28th until April 10th. So if you live anywhere down the West Coast, from here all the way to Vancouver Island and Vancouver, we're going to be at one of the towns near you, going on tour with him. Live streaming every single event. So if you can't even attend live, you can stream it. We're going to be dissecting ancient civilizations, contributionism, the Ubuntu movement, and sound and frequency, because he's got great talks on that as well. So that's something to look forward to. So thank you, everybody. And Trisha, when is the San Diego conference? That's going to be in October. And next time I was going to talk to you, I was going to actually invite you to speak. So right now for the October conference, everyone, we have Nassim Haramein, Trisha McCannon, if she says yes, William Henry, Jamie Janover, and Dr. Dream, Laura. I don't know if we have Laura Eisenhower. She might not be able to attend, and other amazing people. So please stay tuned and check out everything that we're doing. I love you all so much. I don't even want to get off the webcam. I just want to keep rambling. And how do you create a career from this? After 8 years of doing events and taking out loans for doing this kind of work and becoming homeless twice because I put on 2 conferences that completely took it, that I didn't make any money or have any money in my pocket, I figured out a way to eliminate the overhead costs and do everything online and work from home and sustain the business so that I can survive, and also we can fund speakers worldwide. I would have to say that Portal to Ascension is probably the only organization in the world that funds this as many speakers as we do that are all about the shift in consciousness. Like every single individual that does a workshop with us gets compensated for the time so they can continue their work. Every all-day webinar that we do, we have all-day conferences that are 8 to 10 hours even. Those individuals all get a percentage of the splits, and we're constantly sending funds all over the world to every single individual to fund new energy technologies, free energy devices, quantum physics technologies, researching spiritual books. So this has become a huge platform for anybody that is really helping the shift in consciousness generate some sort of income so they can continue their work, because we can't do this if we don't have the funds to do it. If the funds were coming in, I would probably have to work a 9-to-5 job, and I would not be able to create an event like this in order for to shift everybody to help in the shift, because I would have to be doing something else in order to sustain myself. So I want to thank everyone for really, like, I want to cry, like, for really contributing towards what we're doing, because this is so important, and the impact we're having. Tens of thousands of people in webinars in 2 years. over 80 full events and webinars in 2 years, and a whole entire archive, thousands of hours of footage, and hundreds of hours on our YouTube channel right now. And it's all because like you guys are stepping up to really support this movement, and you find something great in what we're doing. So I love you all, and I will be sending you out the replay probably within a day or two. And this one has been recorded, thank God. So this one's been recorded. You guys will get the replay, watch it back at your own leisure. And you actually, Nico, if you don't even want the PowerPoint, you get this whole entire presentation, so you can look it back whenever you want. And stay tuned for what's to come. I'm going to go ahead and put some other links in the email for you guys too. And stay in connection with us. Check out our other events. If you can assist in any way, if you can be an affiliate to help spread the awareness, if you know graphic stuff, if you know web design stuff, if you know how to like just want to make calls for us, like we do everything. I just got a radio show placement on an Australian hip hop radio show that has nothing about consciousness. I got it on Fiverr.com just so I can tell maybe a few 100,000 people that have no idea that ETs exist, So it's like little things like that. Like we need to go out and reach the mainstream and connect with all these platforms, not just stay in our own community. The time for staying in our own community and creating the tribe has come, and it's still here, but we don't need it as much as before. Now it's about us taking our community and going and helping everybody else in the world and spreading this information without any attachment to if they want to take it or not. Like just say it just because it's true and because you love it. And let everybody else do what they're going to, because we're in the etheric photon belt off the universe right now in the Milky Way. We're there right now. It's going to happen no matter what, guys. We're ascending. So welcome to the Ascension. Love you all so much. Have a beautiful evening wherever you're at in the world, and we'll be in touch very, very soon. Bye-bye. Good night.